Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and we are officially 3 long days away from the Black Ops Cold War beta. The alpha is behind us, but I still have tons of footage from it. But before we go any further in this video, I think it's important that we take a look at what Treyarch's lead combat designer put on Twitter a couple of days ago. Tony Flame says, "The Black Ops Cold War beta is quite an upgrade over the alpha. I don't think anyone quite realizes what this team can do in a short amount of time. From new features to the core feel, nearly everything has taken leaps forward." Now that's obviously some really interesting news. Tony is claiming here that not only will there be new features, but a new core feel. And it's going to be really interesting to see exactly what he means by that. I feel like the core gameplay from the alpha was good. The maps themselves were pretty dreadful, but overall, the feel of your character and how you interacted with the world around you felt pretty good, and the gunplay was also one of the many high points of the open alpha, at least in my own personal opinion, so I can't wait for the beta to see what new content is going to be available, as was what content is going to be changed. We already know that snipers are going to receive a pretty hefty nerf, which is honestly well warranted. Hopefully they don't ruin them, but a nerf was needed. And I'm also curious as to how map design may potentially change going from the alpha into the beta. We saw back in World War II and during the Black Ops 4 betas that developers are open to the idea of changing map design, with lofty changes of course coming to Aachen back in World War II and of course Seaside in Black Ops 4. One of the biggest points of feedback from the community during the alpha was that the maps felt way too big and they had way too many extra areas, so I guess we'll have to wait and see how things are going to play out. But moving on from the beta here, it's time to get into the main focus of this video and the reason why most of you clicked in the first place. When it comes to Black Ops Cold War, I have what is apparently an incredibly hot take. Every time I bring this up, people give pushback like I'm attempting to somehow ruin the franchise, but in my mind, this is something that can make virtually every Call of Duty game better. The idea is about player progression, the idea is about tangible rewards that are actually worth a damn, and the idea is about giving players more fun content to grind for and experience within Call of Duty, and of course, I'm talking about reactive camos. Now I know this is going to be a weird video because we're talking about Black Ops Cold War. It's a Cold War themed game set in the 1980s. It's supposed to have a dark and gritty, and like Modern Warfare, it's supposed to have a somewhat realistic feel. But I feel like those arguments perfectly validate my point more than anything. If we look back at the most recent 3 Call of Duty titles, realism is not a thing. People think it is, but it really isn't. Realism in Call of Duty is nothing more than an artificial buzzword that they use to sell copies early on, and then from that they can create an environment where the base content in the game is incredibly dull and boring, and to counter that, later on in the game's life cycle, DLC content comes in and can be sold to fans and then be masqueraded around by the developers as them listening to the player base. Let's start things off here with Call of Duty World War II. Look at this camo right here. This is the endgame camo that you get for completing every single weapon challenge within the game. Chrome, as it's known, is hands down the most boring endgame camo in Call of Duty history, at least in my own personal opinion. It literally just covers your gun in chrome, which initially wasn't even all that shiny to begin with. They eventually updated it, but especially initially, it was really dull and really boring. This was the reward that we got for doing every single weapon camo challenge within Call of Duty World War II, which even for above average players took months and months of grinding to accomplish. And for what? A somewhat shiny weapon? Let's go ahead and take a look at Ruby camo. In my own subjective opinion, this is way better looking than Chrome because it's literally a red diamond camo, and it would have served way better as an endgame camo than Chrome, but instead we just got this from supply drops, right? Simply just that, you get it in supply drops and you had a much higher chance of getting this camo during the Blitzkrieg event. You can still get it now from your supply drops in Call of Duty World War II. You have a much lower chance because we're not specifically within that event, therefore we're not specifically getting Blitzkrieg themed supply drops, but still, this camo, which you just get randomly from supply drops, is a lot better looking, at least in my own personal opinion, than the camo that you get for completing every single challenge in the game. The chrome camo itself is just that. It's chrome, right? It makes your gun shiny, which is something that is accomplished by dozens and dozens of different weapon variants all throughout Call of Duty World War II. Most of the event camos that we had in that game were a lot more interesting and a lot more fun. We look at chrome and it's just boring, right? And why is it boring? Why is the endgame camo in this game boring? Well, the answer is realism. People wanted realism in their World War II shooter, which was never going to be accomplished in the first place because they had to really tone down an SJW pretty much the entire experience because they don't want to offend anybody. And this idea of realism within the game came at the cost of making player rewards boring, and that the rewards you randomly got from supply drops, they were much better at the end of the day, and it felt really bad, right? You work really hard and complete all these challenges in the game, you get a bad camo. You just pay for supply drops or randomly get supply drops, you get better camos. How is that a good progression system for an online shooter game? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And then we even look at camos that came out like Metalflage. In my eyes, this is objectively better than Chrome. It's basically Chrome, but better, but you could only get it via supply drops. And why is that? Well, because people wanted the game to be realistic, right? They wanted to make sure it had a real, gritty, down-to-earth feel, and as a result, the in-game content that we had within Call of Duty World War II that you got with the base game and that you could get for completing challenges and actually playing the game, it was all really boring. Then what happened? Later on in the game's life cycle, they started adding a bunch of good stuff in supply drops, and that feels really bad. Now, moving on here to Modern Warfare 2019, we have this game which is heralded by fans as being super gritty and down-to-earth and realistic, and as cringy as it is to say that about a Call of Duty game, I kind of get where they're coming from. But what's our endgame camo here, right? What is the big endgame camo for Modern Warfare? Well, it's Damascus. This camo is literally just a blue base with wavy red and black lines, and that's pretty much it. For completing every single weapon challenge within Modern Warfare 2019, this is the camo that you get, and it's that way for the sake of realism. You then look at Black Ops 4, and we have Dark Matter. This camo is what you get, like the other ones, like Chrome and Damascus. This is what you get for doing every single weapon camo challenge in the game, and it's absolutely beautiful, even by default. What makes Dark Matter even better is it's animated for one, but also it's reactive. So every 5 kills, your Dark Matter Mastery camo is going to evolve and not only change color and design, but change the overall appearance of your weapon as well. This was such an amazing idea. It was an endgame camo that was actually worth grinding for because it's the most unique camo in Call of Duty history, and even though it has the same base appearance on most of the weapons, it still makes every gun in the game look a lot different because of the different reaction stages and the spikes that come out of your weapon throughout each match. You then go back and look at Chrome and Damascus, and you can see that there is a lot left to be desired. Now, I have seen the argument of, well, Nero, while it is unrealistic, camouflages like Chrome and Damascus are actually possible in real life, whereas reactive camos are not possible in real life. And to those people I say, and forgive me for being blunt, who the fuck cares? Like, seriously, who the fuck cares if it's not possible in real life for this to actually happen? I'm sorry again for being so blunt, but somebody has to get these realism in Call of Duty people to understand that all they're doing is holding the game back because they want to pretend that they're a real-life soldier or something while playing COD, which is completely silly. Let's go ahead and look back at Warzone and Modern Warfare 2019 once again. Because of the idea of quote-unquote realism within Modern Warfare 2019, the endgame camo basically looks like a random supply drop camo that you would get in Black Ops 3, while at the same time, we have stuff like this in the game. What is realistic about weeaboo, anime girl, riot shields, guns, and vehicles within Warzone? We have people running around the map with cat ears on their heads instead of helmets in Modern Warfare, and going back to World War II, we have scarecrows with scythes on their back running around the beaches of Normandy. Now, what about that, may I ask any of you, is remotely realistic in any way, shape, or form? If we're going to have people running around a World War II battle in the frozen Ardennes forest with Hawaiian shirts, Hawaiian shorts, and floppy hats on their heads, you can't argue realism's a thing, right? How can we have snipers in the Middle East running around with ghillie suits made of literal pot leaves and still argue that Call of Duty is realistic and as a result we should not have reactive camos within our game? The moment that stuff like this starts entering the in-game shop or even the battle passes of any given Call of Duty title, when that happens, that completely throws the idea of cosmetics needing to remain realistic completely out the window. All those arguments do, and I know this is going to be a hard pill to swallow, but all those arguments do is create a situation situation where the content that we get in the base game for any given COD title is boring, right? The content that we can earn in-game with our playtime and not our wallets is just going to be boring and lame, while the content that we can get for spending money is going to be much more fun and interesting to play around with. It's literally a situation where Activision can sell people a product that has sub-tier in-game rewards because that's what a vocal section of the player base wants, just so they can then turn around and sell them actual good cosmetic content via the battle pass and via the in-game shop. I mean, it sounds crazy here, but just like, wake up, people. Like, this is what they do year after year. There is nothing wrong with the idea of reactive camos within a Cold War themed Call of Duty title, because we know for a fact that we're going to be getting some crazy, goofy in-game cosmetic content in the shop after a few months of the game being out. If we go back to Black Ops 4 here, the reactive camos that we had, even outside of Dark Matter, were actually amazing. They were unique, they were fun, and above all else, they didn't really do anything to ruin the immersion of the people who did not want to use them. I've been showing a lot of Black Ops 4 footage here in this video, and aside from my own actual gun, how many times have you really noticed the camo of the other players in the lobby, right? Even if you have, how much did that really ruin your immersion over people running around with catgirl ears and pink riot shields, or you getting shot by pink tracer bullets that are coming out of a gun with questionably aged anime girls painted on the side, or even you getting executed from behind by a literal dog from hell? Mind you, Modern Warfare 2019 still also heralded it as the most realistic, gritty Call of Duty game ever made. Meanwhile, stuff like this exists. Now look, I'm not here to say that every single camo in Black Ops Cold War needs to be reactive or even be something crazy and wild. I think that would actually devalue camos a little bit, but picture a situation like this. I want base weapon camos and unlocks in Black Ops Cold War to be like they were back in Black Ops 1 or even Black Ops 2. They were somewhat realistic, they were somewhat grounded and somewhat down to earth while also being pretty fun, and then on top of that, I would like to see the Black Ops Cold War equivalent of Gold, Diamond, and Dark Matter to all be animated and all be reactive. From there, they could also make it so other Cold War themed reactive camos could be unlocked for accomplishing things in-game. Perhaps have a reactive camo be the final unlock for every season's battle pass. Maybe have a different reactive camo be unlocked for hitting Master Prestige. Maybe have a special reactive camo that is only available for people that complete the 100%er challenge within multiplayer. Maybe a different one for zombies as well. This way, reactive camos are in the game, but they're not absolutely everywhere, and they're only unlocked by actually playing the game and accomplishing some of the most difficult and time-consuming challenges that are available. That's all I really want, right? I don't want the game to be super crazy and unrealistic. I want the game to be fun, above all else. I want players to be rewarded for their playtime and their skill in the game, and for those rewards to not artificially be held back because people are still under the impression that Call of Duty multiplayer is even remotely realistic. If you want realism, go play a milsim. Those are actual things, like an actual military simulator. You can go ahead and play that. If you want to drop 60 kills in a game of domination while rushing with your submachine gun and calling in chopper gunners, then go play Call of Duty. It's honestly that simple, and the hypocrisy within the community when it comes to player rewards and cosmetics is honestly one of the most infuriating things I've dealt with over the course of the past few years, and that's what inspired this video here today. Call of Duty is meant to be fun, it's meant to be goofy, it's meant to be unrealistic, but at the same time, it's also meant to provide players a somewhat grounded environment to experience all that fun in, which is why high-end reactive camos would work perfectly within a Cold War themed game, at least in my own personal opinion and in the way that I laid it out here. Now obviously we don't want Black Ops Cold War to basically be like Infinite Warfare, right? Or even Black Ops 4. We want the game to kind of feel like Black Ops 1, but better, and one of the ways they can make the game better is having endgame reactive camos for actually doing really hard and difficult challenges within the game itself, as compared to just selling those camos and those cosmetics to people 6 months in via the in-game shop. I really hate the idea that Call of Duty has to be this super gritty, down-to-earth, realistic game. It can be, and I like that setting, but it doesn't have to be so bad that they hold back players' progression and hold back rewards when we know for a fact that crazy cosmetics will be coming to the game at some point later on within the game's life cycle. I know people are going to argue that. They're going to say, well, maybe they just don't do that. Maybe they don't add those crazy things to the shop and we can have gritty, down-to-earth, realistic stuff in the base game and no crazy stuff in the in-game shop later on and everything will be perfect, right? But to those people I say, You're living in a dreamland, man. You really are. We all know for a fact that crazy stuff will eventually be added to the in-game shop and added to the Battle Pass. Let's look back at Call of Duty's history ever since they added microtransactions. In Black Ops 2, we had bacon camos. In Call of Duty Ghosts, we had marijuana camos and marijuana ghillie suits. In Advanced Warfare, we had gingerbread man outfits. In Black Ops 3, we had animated camos, which are actually awesome. In Infinite Warfare, we had robot dogs running around on Mars. In World War II, we had women. And in Modern Warfare, we have anime titties, right? Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4 were really the only games to embrace the idea of fun cosmetic rewards for actually playing the game as compared to only spending money on the game, and that's why Hope Treyarch continues that trend with Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. I warned you at the very beginning that most of you were going to hate this video, but hopefully most of you made it through the entirety of the video and actually listened to my argument and my proposal from start to finish. I know it's controversial, but then again, I've never been one to back down from controversial topics within the Call of Duty franchise. This is something that I think would make Black Ops Cold War a lot better. Based on what I played during the alpha, I think the game has the potential to actually be pretty good. We'll of course have to wait for the beta and the full launch, but just judging from the alpha, the only content we've actually been able to experience, the game itself seems like it's on the right path, but I do want progression and in-game rewards to actually be good this year, as compared to all the good stuff just being locked away behind a paywall. And the reason why it's locked behind a paywall, once again, going full circle here, is because people are always shouting from the rooftops that COD needs to be realistic, it has to be down to earth, it has to be gritty, so on and so forth. When in reality, they're just creating a situation where Activision can release a game with really bad in-game rewards in the base game itself, and then turn around and say, oh, we're going to add some cool stuff for our players because we love you guys, and then sell that all to us, as compared to making it so we can just unlock it within the game. It almost seems like you're lining Activision's pockets by crying out every single year that COD needs to be realistic, when in reality, COD isn't realistic. It does need to be somewhat grounded, I agree, but it doesn't have to be so grounded and realistic that it's boring, which has happened over the course of the past couple years, at least when it comes to the idea of cosmetics. I'm not talking about maps or gunplay or gameplay or anything like that. I'm talking about in-game rewards, cosmetics, and unlocks. Every year it seems like the base content is really boring, and then they sell us a bunch of really cool and interesting stuff instead of putting it into the base game, and it's because that's what a lot of people are actually asking them to do. And I think that's really dumb. It's very hypocritical, and that was the focus of today's video. Well, that's all for me today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider leaving a like, leave your thoughts and feedback on this topic down in the comments, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.